Hello everyone, welcome to the Hotels on the Mobile Frontier webinar. Today we're going to be talking about how mobile is shaping a new standard in the guest experience. And we have a very exciting agenda to share with you. The webinar today is sponsored by Stay in Touch, Checkmate, and Travel Tripper. My name is Stefan Borelowitz and I will be your moderator. I'd like to just start by introducing our panel of presenters. So first off, we'll be hearing from Gautam Lula, President of Travel Tripper. Gautam started his career and established his foundation in hotels at Taj and moved on to management roles at Pegasus and then Amadeus Hospitality Business Group. In 2008, Gautam was recruited to manage and run Travel Tripper, and since then has grown the company into one of the recognized global leaders in full-service hotel technology. Today, Travel Tripper provides CRS, web, and demand generation services to 2,000 customers around the world. Also joining us, Joost Schaaf, CEO and founder of Stay in Touch. Joost has a 17-year track record leading Microsystems as a senior VP in charge of global product development and strategy for the lodging and e-commerce divisions. During his tenure, Micro's hospitality products became a global leader, growing the company's revenues to over $1 billion in sales. Josh was responsible for introducing a number of new products and enabling Micros to enter all hospitality segments. Joost is also co-founder and CEO of Stay in Touch, a company that delivers cloud-based hotel PMS and a suite of tablet-enabled solutions to optimize the existing PMS and make it mobile. And lastly, but certainly not least, Drew Patterson, CEO and co-founder of Checkmate. Drew was previously the CEO and founder of JetSetter, and prior to that, he was a member of the founding team at Kayak, where he served as VP of Marketing. Drew started his career in distribution and revenue management at Starwood Hotels, and today Checkmate is the leading travel technology company advancing on-demand hospitality to bring a better guest experience before check-in through departure. Checkmate's tools enable hotels and their guests to have a two-way conversation through any means of conversation. So that is our panel. Let me tell you a little bit about our agenda today. So we're going to be covering why hotels need to invest in mobile, and then we'll be talking about challenges and opportunities in mobile technology as well. We'll be reserving some time at the end of the webinar to discuss your questions. Before we begin, just to share a little bit of background and a primer on our topic. As we know, nearly 10 years ago, millions of people started using smartphones, which have now become virtually ubiquitous. But in many ways, hotels have been playing catch-up for years. You could say that hotels have been sort of upside down on mobile. Instead of playing, if you build it, they will come, hotels realized if they come, we're going to have to build it. Based on our representative sample of about 2,000 hotels, this year we crossed a major Rubicon in the industry in that we're now seeing more than half of all web traffic coming from a mobile device. So this is a huge milestone. And the first question I would pose just to get us warmed up on the panel is that we've been hearing about mobile for quite some time now. And you might say, we're kind of balancing between fatigue on mobile being so important, and yet the facts and figures that continue to amaze us as we see an increase in the number of mobile users across different channels in hospitality. Tell us a little, maybe one statistic, one fact, or one anecdote or story that you're watching that really convinces you that mobile's time is now.
Thanks, Stefan. At Checkmate, we too are very excited about the trends around mobile, and the point of entry, or the area where we see the most interest around mobile, has to do with communication and the ways in which guests communicate in their personal lives, and more than that, how hotels and guests can begin to communicate with each other. We see a host of new communication patterns that are coming up, largely geared towards messaging. Text messaging, obviously, is the most prominent and most established piece here in the U.S. Overseas, we see WhatsApp, Facebook messages, WeChat, all blowing up, as evidenced perhaps by Line's IPO today as one of the leading messaging players in Asia. I think I saw they had an $8 billion valuation when they were going out. And I think the data point to us that solidifies the importance of messaging as a new form of communication has to do with open rate and responsiveness. We've all struggled with email response rate and email open rates, and now see at best, single digit, low double digit open and response rates in email. By contrast, text messages are open 98% of the time. The amount of communication and the response rate in these new channels is just breathtaking relative to what one sees in email.
Drew, thank you so much for that background and primer from your perspective. And next, we're going to dive into our first audience poll before we hear in a little bit more detail from Gautam. So this is an opportunity for you to weigh in, and we're going to do a live poll in a moment. So just hang tight, and you'll see that poll pop up on your screen in a couple of minutes. The first poll is about mobile and the guest experience. If you can, go ahead and dive in. Looks like we are getting some good results in progress. We've got about half the people half of our attendees so far have voted, which is great. And I'm going to share with you the results of our poll in just a moment. This is great. Probably give it another minute or so just to see if anyone else wants to participate. And we will resume. One of the benefits, obviously, is we're going to share the live results just in just a moment. So thanks, everyone, for weighing in on this. And okay, I'm going to share the results of what we have. So we have a good chunk, by far, a strong majority of all of the attendees have voted at this point, and let me share the results of the poll. So these are the results. Our assessment is sort of what we were expecting. We see fair results overall being the highest, receiving the highest respondents. I think that represents some of the challenges that people are encountering, and I think we're going to go ahead and learn more about how we can capture opportunities for mobile. So with that, I'm going to transition now to Gautam Lula, and Gautam will be talking a little bit about delighting guests with mobile. So Gautam, over to you.
Thanks again, Stefan. Okay, so Travel Tripper, as you know, is in the business of providing hotels with technology, revenue generation technology, distribution services, web design and development, and demand generation. So nothing works better to set the context of the importance of mobile than a few numbers. We've seen everybody is well aware of the increasing use of mobile, but some important milestones and numbers that we have noticed. Today, over 49% of all hotel searches on mobile are done on mobile phones. And if we look at just Travel Tripper's own numbers, we see that this matches with what Google is reporting. From our own Google Analytics, we are seeing that number at about 51%. However, the problem is that mobile bookings are not catching up at the same pace. Now, there may be very good reasons for that. Users tend to go to their mobile devices to browse casually, to look, but increasingly are looking also to make reservations. The pace of growth of mobile has been incredible. I mentioned a statistic of 2.5% in just the last month, but if we look at the numbers since 2014, we've seen a 50% growth in direct bookings being made over a mobile device. So again, this is somewhat in keeping with the growth that we see over the last month. Multiply 2%, 2.5% by about 24 months or 20 months, and you get to approximately 50%. So that growth is not even slowing down. The unfortunate thing for hotels, from a hotel's perspective, is that the pace is not in keeping with what OTAs are able to do. OTAs are now seeing 40% of their bookings coming from mobile devices, And this 40% is 40%, a larger percentage of a larger volume. So clearly hotels need to work harder to increase their own mobile reservations. So what can we do what are some of the things that hotels can invest in and do? I think a four-pronged strategy is necessary for hotels to address mobile properly from a search and book perspective. The first thing that they can do is they need to do is ensure that their mobile websites are up to par. And the best way to do this is to really invest in responsive web design for this. Responsive web design is favored by Google in terms of SEO. It also goes a long way in future-proofing your own website. Mobile device manufacturers like Apple and Motorola and Samsung are constantly introducing new devices to the market, and the sizes and the screen layout varies with each new release of their products. A responsive website will address the need to will address the evolution of devices, which is happening also at a very fast pace. Secondly, hotels should really start investing in mobile-specific marketing strategies. We see that users are using mobile devices and desktops and laptops for months, and they're seamlessly switching between these to plan and research and eventually book their journeys. And mobile devices need to be given their due attention in this from a marketing perspective as well. So this means investing in everything from stronger social media strategies over apps from like Instagram, Facebook, and what have you, to better SEO and Google local listings, mobile search ads, and other available tools and strategies that are available in the market. Next is from a pricing perspective as well. We see the habits of mobile of people booking hotels on mobile is quite different from desktop. Mobile bookings tend to be much more last minute. Over 60% of reservations made on mobile devices are for the same or the next day. So this allows hotels to actually have a revenue management strategy that caters specifically to mobile bookers. Your CRS vendor is the one you should turn to help you to help ensure that you have the right tools in place. For example, in Travel Tripper's ResTrip CRS, we treat mobile, desktop, or rather phones, desktop, and tablets as distinct devices, allowing hotels to have distinct pricing strategies for each one of them. Consider dropping your rates for the last day, similar to how you would do on Hotel Tonight, for example. Consider having price points that are available to local users only, because you are now able to recognize where users are reserving from, where they are geographically while making their booking. How close are they to your hotel? Is there something you can offer them that is special and distinct? And lastly is, of course, the actual booking process itself. It needs to, your mobile booking engine needs to cater to people reserving on their devices. The flow should be extremely simple and easy to use. It should offer beautiful imagery to entice guests to book on their mobile device. We've seen so many mobile booking engines are still text-based only, and this is not attractive, and this is not going to entice a user to book. Make it fast and painless to book. The one advantage that OTAs have over independent hotels particularly is the fact that they are able to offer apps which users are not going to download for a single independent hotel. And this allows them to have an express booking path. There are things, however, that booking engine providers can offer independent hotels, such as the ability to scan their credit card instead of having to enter it through the phone keyboard. You might also consider allowing for bookings without credit cards for same day or next day bookings, because the risk is far less. So there are many things that users can, that your service providers can offer you to increase mobile bookings. And with that, I will hand over to Yosh, CEO of Stay in Touch, for the next phase of the guest journey, the actual hotel check-in and stay.
Great. Thanks very much, Gautam, and thanks, Devin. So yeah, I'm going to spend about 4 or 5 minutes about mobile check-in and check-out, which follows the booking process that Gautam talked about. Once the booking is made, it would obviously be nice if that same booking experience, which is done mobile, can continue for the guest on their way to the hotel, while traveling to the hotel, trying to get into the hotel in a very convenient way. So a couple of statistics that we gathered together is that there's a lot of customers or guests today that would like to take advantage of mobile check-in or out, 84% to be exact. 60% of them would be more likely to stay in a hotel that offers mobile check-in and check-out. 76% of the customers that have the opportunity to use an automated kiosk or automated mobile check-in would prefer to do so rather than waiting in line or go to the front desk. And 63% of the travelers prefers the hotels with technology-enabled lobby. So if you take those statistics and you look, for example, at the customer base that we have out there today, that kind of matches the trend that we see of our customers that are using our platform for almost 2 years now. When we started our journey with this company about 2.5 years ago, the initial customers that went live using mobile check-in and mobile check-out had a conversion between 5 and 10%. That's gradually increasing for a number of reasons. Firstly, I think because everybody gets more and more used to mobile and wants to have a mobile solution, wants to be able to check in on a mobile phone. But more importantly, I think also once hotels get an understanding of what guests like and want, they can enhance their experience by marketing it on their website. They can promote it in the lobby. They can add it to the confirmation email that goes out to the customer, and so on. That has certainly increased the conversion that we see. So if I look at some of our customers and I take a sample set of those, that we see a conversion rate of 35% of the guests that get offered a mobile check-in, email or text message, taking advantage of that ability to check in. And on the same side, on the check-out, there's up to 30% that does that. And that 30%, especially at checkout, is a very important part because most people these days don't check out anymore because it's simply too inconvenient to go by the front desk and ask for a folio or a bill, for that matter. So going back to check-in, you can see, we also see hotels that have on peak days even 60 to 80%. One hotel actually got to 85% not too long ago of the people on one day opting to check in through a mobile phone. That's a very, very high rate. What was also interesting at that hotel at that day was that there was a conference of LinkedIn, which, as you can probably imagine, is a bunch of people that are much younger, very much into mobile, very much into software. But you can see see the certain segments of the people that go to hotels prefer to travel and check in mobile above others. So going back to what I'm trying to explain here is that we can improve the guest experience from the moment you walk in the door. You can do that by offering choice. You don't only have to offer mobile check-in. You can also still have a guest go to the front desk. If you see the picture that's on the slide right now, you see towards the right, you see a tablet-based self-service station, but you see the staff member checking the guest and using a tablet, where from that tablet everything is done, from the credit card processing all the way down to creating the key. You see a happy customer, you see a happy staff member. It's a very integrated and working well relationship and interaction between both staff and guests. It's much more friendly than having the front desk in the middle of that. So I think together with mobile check-in comes the ability to offer a choice of service. You should be able, I think the front desk of the future or the lobby of the future should be able to offer choice. If I'm a guest, if I want to check in on my mobile phone, I should be able to do so. If I want to check in but pick up my key somewhere, I should be able to do so. If I want to be able to do everything from my phone, I should be able to do so. I stayed in a hotel in Amsterdam recently. One of our customers, when I landed in the morning at the airport, there was a notification to get my to check in. I got my phone, my key sent to my phone, and basically from that moment on, I could straight walk into the hotel, straight to my room. And once I got cleared up and took a shower and was ready to go to work, I was able to interact with people in the hotel to do certain actions. So mobility is not something that thrives or drives guest service away from the hotel. I think, or we think, it actually brings it more and closer to the guest. You know, the days of the transactional check-in, I think, are over. You know, many conversations that we have over the past couple of years, there's a number of hotel managers that still say, we really like the guests to come to the front desk because we do want to make sure we interact with the guests. But is that really a true interaction? You know, check-in today with a big desk in between the guest and between the staff member. Is that really a service-minded or really a fine interaction? And I don't think there's many people that actually come to a hotel for the check-in experience. They come to the hotel because they have a good general experience, because you service them well on other touch points during their stay, but probably not so much for the check-in, which I think can be changed with mobile technology available today. And it doesn't only have to be the smartphone, it can also be a tablet, as you can see in this picture where the guest is walking around the lobby, where the staff member is walking around the lobby. So all in all, I think that mobile, both for staff and guests, can enhance the check-in and check-out experience above it being a transactional experience. You can use it to offer choice. I think when you select vendors that do mobile technologies, make sure they provide mobile technologies for both staff and guests, because it allows you to offer choice. I think the future of the lobby, the future of a PMS for that matter, is basically that a lot of the data entry is actually done by the guest, but not so much the guest realizing that they're actually doing it. Another, I think, important point to mention is that people of today, they want instant access to everything. They have their phone with them all day long. They do everything on their phone. They order a taxi, Uber on their phone. They order coffee from Starbucks on their phone. They have the fitness schedule on their phone. They have their flight app on their phone. Everything they do on a day-to-day basis is happening in and around their phone. Instant access. When you offer mobile check-in, instant access also often means instant buying impulse. So when the guest does check in on a mobile phone and you offer him early check-in or you offer him an upsell, you're very much more likely to actually get them to buy that. Late checkout is another example. When the guest is waking up in the morning and had a rough night before and has some more time, if you offer that late checkout on their smartphone, it's an instant buying impulse. Before they know it, they press the button and you've made another $25 per guest per night, as an example. To that example, we've got now data from our customers live that show ROIs of up to 300% all the way down to 100% or more. So bringing in mobile has a lot of good opportunities for both staff and guests. But I think the most important thing that I would say around it is that it's about offering the choice of service. You know, wouldn't it be great if if I land into a city, I get my smartphone out of my pocket, and there's my notification to check into my hotel room. I check into my hotel room. A couple of seconds later, I get a room ready notification, and a couple of seconds later, I get a hotel room key on their phone. I can then go straight into my room, as I mentioned earlier, and as soon as I'm in my room, I'm getting a text message that says, "Welcome. Is there anything else I can do for you?" And with that, Stefan, I'll give it to Drew.
To start, I'd ask all of you actually to help me with a little bit of an experiment here. You know, again, we all know that the communication patterns have changed, but I'd ask you if you could take out your phone and look at the messages that you sent at the top of your message queue. I'll wait a second so you can all get your phones out. Good, glad to see you've got them out. As I look at the messages I've sent over the past 2 days, you know, the top messages I've sent are to my wife, to my best friends, to my nanny. Messaging is where I go to live my life every day. This is how I communicate with my friends and family, and this is pervasive across consumers. Messaging is replacing voice as the means by which consumers communicate with each other. This is now the dominant way that consumers, not just millennials, but every age group, look to communicate. So let's ask then, how many of you enable your guests to message with you, to send messages as a primary means of communication when they are on property? This is a massive missed opportunity in the hotel space. Guests prefer messaging-based interactions. For today's consumer, there's a far easier way to communicate. It's timely, it provides a document record, it's asynchronous, it fits the way that we live the rest of our lives in our personal lives. The opportunity is, how does this start to enter into communication that happens on property? And you can see here we've gathered some data that starts to substantiate that. 78% of consumers wish they could send text messages to a business. This is something that is not in the future. This is where consumers are today. They're looking to use messaging to interact with your hotel. Likewise, as I mentioned at the opening, messages have an incredibly high open rate. 98% of text messages are open. Compare this to email, and we're talking about just completely different forms of communication. There's around messaging that these messages will be opened and used in an immediate basis. And has a level of immediacy, again, that looks quite different from email. This is where I go to get answers right now. And finally, text messages have a phenomenal response rate. We see the response rate of text messages being 8 times the response rate of email. Again, when you send text messages to your guests, when you use various forms of messaging, whether it's Facebook Messenger, SMS, WeChat, etc., these expect a response that look quite different from what one sees in email. And again, the implication of that is it allows for you to communicate with customers during their stay while they're on property in very, very different ways than we've seen in the past. And so to go to the next slide, the payoff around messaging, the reason that this is important, obviously it's great to meet your consumers, your guests, where they live their lives, but it has real consequences for the ways in which you can deliver service to your customers. Messaging is powerful because it allows hotels to tackle service recovery in the moment rather than fighting battles after the fact on TripAdvisor. When issues go awry in the midst of a stay, and of course, we all know in the hospitality business, this is a service business, not everything goes perfectly at every moment. Service recovery happens. Being able to be in immediate communication with your customers and hearing from them in the moment allows you to tackle those problems and solve and deliver a great experience, rather than trying to explain after the fact why something might have gone wrong on a review site like TripAdvisor. It also allows you to welcome guests with timely and relevant information throughout their stay. So we have customers today that will use this to, for example, push an agenda to meeting attendees, to send a schedule for a wedding to guests as they arrive, to provide amenities or instruct guests about services that might be available. All the information you're looking to have in the hands of your customers, all that is possible and can be delivered through messaging in a very powerful way that makes sure your customers know what services are available to them and how you can deliver care for them. And finally, it empowers your teams because unlike today's communication channels, right, unlike radio or voice or written notes, messaging provides a searchable record of every guest interaction. As hosts, it's our responsibility to make our guests feel welcome, to initiate a conversation. You're not going to see nearly the level of interaction and engagement you will if you start to be proactive and welcome customers. And that's one of the reasons that we think outbound messaging, being proactive and educating your customers that they can send you messages is so important. Again, it's very easy for customers to reply when you send them a welcome message. It's much harder for them to know in the moment that they can start to send you messages. So ultimately, the reason that messaging is so important is that this gives you a new lifeline, a new touch point that allows you to communicate with your guests throughout the course of their stay. So with that, I'll turn it back to Stefan, and we can open up the conversation to the broader themes around mobile.
Sounds great. Drew, thank you so much for sharing, and it's really so interesting to hear about this kind of very cutting-edge medium for hotel and guest interaction. So with that, speaking of cutting edge, what I was thinking, we're going to go into a poll, another live poll in a couple of minutes, but I'd like to just reserve a few minutes of time for our panel to have a brief conversation. And I'd like to kind of kick it off with a question that was posed to the panel. And this question was directed to Joss, but I actually think we can broaden it to the whole panel, and I'll explain why. The question is, mobile check-in, checkout technology is still very new. This particular attendee has said that they've tried to use it about a dozen times. They've yet to make it through a stay without having to go back to the front desk and ask for a physical key. And so his question is, at what point do hotels take a leap if the technology really isn't there, in his experience, to be able to deliver an effective user or guest experience? And so this is a question to Joss, particularly about the challenges of check-in, but I would also open it up to the panel discussion about just generally how do hotels feel confident that they can adopt new technologies in general and know that they're going to work.
Yeah, so I think ultimately the most complex part of the check-in process is still the key to the hotel room door, So to the question's point, that is something you have to work around. But there's multiple ways to advance and enhance the check-in experience, and still having the guest to go to the front desk to pick up the key. A few examples are the advantage of mobile check-in is that the guest can check in early. They can indicate at what time they'll arrive at the hotel. You can have the room ready. You can pre-send that email or text with that room to that guest. So you start interacting with the guest early through mobile. You make the experience at the front desk much smaller and much shorter. So rather than having the guest to go to the front desk and fill in some cases, a registration card or answer a few questions, show ID, all that kind of stuff, all that can be done on the smartphone today with mobile check-in that, for example, we provide, takes away a lot of the transactional component from the front desk interaction that's now limited to only the key. So if hotels are a little bit liberal towards, for example, also not necessarily requesting a credit card swipe, but just have the credit card entered through a secure method on the smartphone, then the check-in experience can become immediately much more smooth and cleaner, even if the guest has to go to the front desk to pick up the to pick up the key. The other two things that we offer is that we also have a key dispenser in our tools available that can be placed in the lobby, and some of our customers use that, whereby the guest only has to go to that dispenser, scan their phone, and get the key that way, which even further shortens the experience of check-in itself. So I think there's definitely a little bit of a way to go to get everybody straight getting the key on their phone. That's probably a few years out. We're just experiencing with it now with one customer in Amsterdam, and it's going very well, and it has a lot of great advantages to that. But as you all know, that requires a infrastructure change that's a little bit more costly than just offering check-in on the mobile phone. But I do think that in order to get ready for that infrastructure change, many hotels that are new builds are installing door locks that support phone keys and are getting ready for that. But I think also what Drew mentioned earlier on the texting side, it doesn't really work if you don't enhance your process or change the process operationally around the check-in. So, to answer the question, I think you can definitely take great advantage of mobile check-in, even if the guest has to go to the front desk to pick up the key, as long as you make sure that the process at the front desk is limited to pretty much giving the guest the key and nothing else. Stefan.
Excellent. Thank you.
To jump in on that, I think. It's a great question, because there have been so many technologies that have come into the industry and hotels have been pushed to adopt and have struggled with, and it requires that kind of leap of faith, or at least in many cases it can. I think that's one of the reasons that we think messaging is such an important and timely technology for hotels to think about right now. And that is because this is not a leap of faith. If you look at messaging behavior among consumers, consumers are leading the charge on this. This is how consumers are already beginning to interact with each other. And that's why it's so important that hotels meet them where they are today. You're not asking for a change of behavior. You're not asking consumers to think about different ways to interact with you or change your process when you think about messaging. All you're enabling is your consumers to interact in the same way they do in their personal lives.
Excellent. Thanks, Drew. And, I wanted to ask Gautam as well. Travel Tripper has had a reputation for delivering a lot of innovation to the market over the years. How do you view concerns about taking risks with new features versus the benefits of adopting new technology?
I think there is more risk in not adopting new technologies than there is in experimenting with it. At Travel Tripper, we're always looking for ways to help our hotels earn more money, particularly through the direct channel. And as a CRS provider, one of the strongest ways in which we are able to differentiate ourselves is on the direct booking channel. So mobile and desktop booking engines and tablet booking engines. We've done a lot. I mentioned some of the things that we have done in this area up to now. Treating these three devices, distinct devices, and usage patterns as distinct, so that from a revenue management perspective, so that hotels can actually put forward rates or offers that are unique to booking patterns and behavior on each of these devices. in Travel Tripper, for example, a hotel can create an offer in under 2 minutes without creating any new rate plans in the system for local users booking for today at after a specific time of day or between a specific time of day. We are about to launch a new mobile booking engine to try and push that number of 20% up to 25, 30, maybe even 40% and catch up with the OTAs, which is a features-rich booking engine, has everything that a desktop can do, and also the booking experience is greatly enhanced. Everything from search calendars to which show rates on a per day basis across an entire year at a time, to large, rich images that are attractive and entice guests to book. And I think we're most excited with that new engine to allow users to actually scan their credit card, which is one of the biggest reasons people don't complete their booking on direct mobile booking engines. Typing in 15, 20 numbers, 16 digits with your expiration date, your CVV code, all of that is cumbersome, and it's the biggest deterrent. So imagine just being able to scan that, hold your phone camera over your credit card, and it enters all that data in directly, reads it, scans it in, and enters it in. So we're quite optimistic and that we will be able to take these numbers up and provide our hotels with something new and very exciting.
Excellent. So, I think just drawing these themes together, so we're hearing about some incredibly innovative technologies related to mobile check-in, mobile messaging, mobile booking. These are all incredibly exciting, incredibly innovative technologies. And at the same time, I think, Gautam, you put it very well when you said, well, as you evaluate how innovative you want to be, how much risk you want to take as you adopt these new technologies, I think it's important, as you said, Gautam, to kind of think about, well, what happens if you don't? If you're falling behind the OTAs, if you're falling behind your competition. And so while you do have to be a risk taker to adopt new technologies, you also have to recognize that your choice is either to fall behind or to innovate and continue to do so. So thank you for those reflections. We're going to move into our second audience poll. And we're going to be asking, what is the biggest challenge to implementing mobile technology from your perspective? And so I'm going to go ahead and open up that poll now, and we'll be able to get some live results and share that with each other. So I invite you once again to participate in this poll and fill in your responses. At the same time, we're going to resume a panel discussion, and then we're going to also entertain some additional questions. So I would also invite you, once you've finished the poll, to go ahead and submit some questions to the panel, and I'll try to make sure we can include some of your questions in our discussion before we wrap up in the next 10 or 12 minutes. So just going to wait a couple of minutes longer for anyone who wants to participate in the poll, and then I will be sharing the results in just a moment. And as I said, if you can also think about any other questions you may have once you've filled in the poll, please go ahead and feel free to submit. And we will have a look at some of your questions in a few minutes as well. So just a couple more seconds here before I close the poll, and then we will have a look at how you guys are responding. And okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and share the results. So what is the biggest challenge to implementing mobile technology in your hotel? And based on our live survey here, we see kind of a neck and neck tie here between concerns about costs and concerns about making sure that you pick the right technology provider. And so these are the two top concerns that we're hearing from you. And thank you for participating in that poll. And now we're going to resume with a discussion of some challenges and opportunities, an opportunity to ask the panelists to weigh in on some of the topics that we've been discussing today, and also to entertain some questions for you. So just to kick off this discussion, in terms of myths and facts, we've been talking a little bit about biggest challenges. We heard from our attendees concerns about cost, concerns about choosing the right technology provider. We've been talking a lot about innovation and maybe some concerns about making sure that the technology that people are adopting is really ready for prime time. There's also a question about are we really in the midst of a revolution? You know, I think earlier we heard that OTAs are now booking 40% on mobile. This seems to be a long and steady and clearly revolutionary change in how people are booking. Obviously, mobile check-in and messaging also represent major changes in the way that guest behavior is changing as well, and the way that we're changing the way we interact with guests. And then, of course, we will reserve a little bit of time, maybe at the end of this portion, to talk about the future. So I'm going to throw it open to our panelists to respond to the poll or any of these topics. And one way to start, and I don't want to limit you guys on this, but we did have a question, and this might be just one reflection on these topics, which is where do tablets fit in? So I'm going to start with that as a question for the panel, and please take it in any direction you choose.
What is it the consumers are actually doing today? You know, can we be led by the consumer? Are there behaviors or usage patterns that we can see that allow us to know that there's already some adoption and desire from consumers on the part of these new tools and technologies? And I think there's no doubt that mobile is a profound platform and changing huge chunks of technology. But in terms of the specific applications, you know, the key is to find areas where one can be led by the consumer.
If I can jump into that, I think you know, if it's hype or if it's not, I think actually it's something that has to grow and continue to grow. And I also think that hoteliers should think about not saying, you know, when they buy mobile solutions, does everybody then has to use those mobile solutions right away, or is that something that grows gradually? You know, what I mean with that, if you implement, for example, mobile check-in solution, does that mean that is a success if everybody checks in, or only if 5% checks in? I think it's about offering the guests the way they'd like to enter into a hotel and make that guest particularly happy, which would increase their guest satisfaction scores and therefore help you with, you know, enhancing further opportunities. It's all about putting it in place and grow it gradually. It's also important, I think, as a hotel that when you implement these technologies that, you know, in your earlier poll are on the expensive side, there is ways to actually ROI on them fairly quickly because today they don't require a huge upfront expense anymore. They're usually monthly fees that can easily be recovered with a very simple upsell strategy, and that would probably apply to the booking engine, that would apply to mobile check-in, that would also apply to texting. These are also three opportunities where you can offer alternate services, or you can simply make the guest happy, and that could also be an ROI for you. So is it a myth, and does everybody have to use it right away? No, I don't think so. I think it's a matter of gradually implementing a solution so that, you know, those people that want to use mobile solutions in and around the hotel can do so, while others can still be served at other areas in the hotel.
I think I would just add to that, Jos. I think you know, the time is now. We've seen survey after survey saying, you know, so many statistics are out there which indicate that travelers would much prefer to stay at hotels that offer good mobile services, whether it's check-in, whether it's on premises, whether it's got to do with the reservations part of the journey. the future, we used to say that, mobile is the future. That was 3-4 years ago. We are now here. I think it is, while it might be slightly difficult to measure ROI for on-property technologies, it will probably show up in just better occupancies. Because guests will, if you're able to communicate to them during the search and book process that we are a fully mobile-enabled hotel for various types of services, and you will see that in your occupancy. So that's my take on it. I think the time is now for hotels to really invest and not worry about so much about exactly how do I measure the ROI. As we've seen, people are seamlessly switching between desktop and mobile, and they will do that in the hotel as well. The same guest might check in on a mobile device one day and then check in at the front desk the next day, depending on what their needs are on that particular trip or each of those unique trips. So just to add that little bit.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much, Gautam. So another question to the whole panel, and I think each of you have described, Gautam, Jos, Drew, technologies that are related to mobile. And one of the questions that we receive from our attendees is, how do you guys think about native apps versus mobile web?
That's a very open question. And I think, it's like, do I like an Audi or a BMW? They're both good cars, I would imagine. But I think that's probably what I've said a couple years ago. I think going forward, mobile web is the way to go. Unfortunately, in order to get a key, you need an app on the phone. So the way we envision that is that you use mobile web to do all the transactional components. And for those people that want to download their key on their phone, you provide an app. Can you provide an app still? Sure, you can, but there's a much more uptake on mobile check-in and out and other solutions delivered to a customer through texting or email from a link from where they can then start the process, then first having to go and download an app, sign in on it, and then go into the process. The process works much better if there's an immediate result rather than having to set the phone up itself first for mobile check-in. So I see, when we look at it as Stay in Touch, we see a very big opportunity in mobile web responsive design that can run on any application rather than just an app on a smartphone.
Yeah, to echo Jos's points, we would strongly agree with that. And I think the way that we would think about it is it's as important to think about the distribution tactics for your solutions, your mobile technology, your mobile tools, as the technology that they're built on, right? Like, if you can't get your technology and your tools in the hands of your guests, it sort of doesn't matter what you've got them built on. Whereas, obviously, if you can get them into the hands of your consumers, then they start to take action and have value. And so, from our standpoint, it's incredibly important to think about how do you start to educate your customers to use these tools, not just what is it that you're going to build.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. I want to make sure that we use the last 3 minutes wisely. And what I'd love to do is ask each of our panelists to just sort of weigh in on your thoughts on the hotel of the future. If you were to look at the hotel of the future in the next 5 to 7+ years, what's going to be different? What's going to change? We only have about 3 minutes left, so I'm going to ask you for about 1 minute each, and we'll go in reverse order. Drew, Jos, and Gautam.
I think as you look out to the future, the great thing is the ability to increase consistency. As you have various forms of messaging that are digital, that have a record that can be searched, as you have automation tools that allow for greater efficiency in terms of customer interaction and services, all those things will reduce the variability of customers' experiences, give hoteliers more tools, more information to deliver great service and to connect with their customers.
Yeah, and I would add to that I think the hotel of the future will use, only cloud technology. It will be using a mobile PMS that enables connectivity to all kinds of other services that can be provided to guests as well as staff. I think one part that we did not discuss but can talk about in the future is the mobile guest check-in and out, as well as texting also requires back-of-house mobile response tools and software to ensure good service. So I think it's going to be all in the cloud. It's going to be mobile. And last but not least, I think the guests will do a lot of the data entry without really realizing it, him or herself, as part of the check-in and check-out process on a smartphone.
I think from a CRS perspective or CRS provider's perspective, and focusing just on that component of what we offer the market, I think the next frontier, CRS providers have been offering mobile booking engines, good or bad or otherwise, but they have been offering it for some time now. I think the next frontier for companies in our space is to really now mobilize, if you will, if I can put it that way, the revenue management teams that are actually using our CRSs to adjust their prices and create offers and things of that sort. That's an area of opportunity. If the companies that do that and move quickly in that will do well, and the market is crying out for it. We know that revenue managers are just from the times of day that we receive queries from our hotels, they are using our system 24 hours a day. Somebody at the hotel is. And a lot of them are doing this from their homes and while on the go. So if we can bring that to them as well, the administration of their hotel in our systems on mobile devices, I think that is the next frontier for companies in our space.
Excellent. Well, I'd like to thank you all for attending. Gautam, Joost, Drew, thank you for your ideas and presentations. Thank you all attendees for joining us for this webinar. We will follow up by email, and we'll be sharing the assets from this webinar with you. So please look out for those, and we'll be in touch shortly with them. And thank you for joining us.